Imagine investing hundreds of millions of dollars into a business where one unexpected fuel price increase, one global pandemic, or one economic recession can wipe out years of profits almost overnight. Yet despite these enormous risks, airlines continue to attract investors around the world. Every single day, more than 100,000 commercial flights carry millions of passengers across the globe, generating billions of dollars in economic activity. But behind every takeoff is a business model that is far more complex than simply selling airline tickets. So, how much money does it actually take to own an airline? Why do some airlines become billion-dollar companies while others collapse within just a few years? And if you had unlimited capital today, what would it really take to start your own airline? Today, we're breaking down the complete economics of owning an airline, from startup costs and licensing requirements to the financial realities that determine whether an airline succeeds or fails. Before we begin, if you enjoy learning how businesses really work and want factual, in-depth analysis of industries from around the world, subscribe to Raymap's Profit Lab. We publish detailed business documentaries that explain the economics behind some of the world's biggest and most profitable industries. Now, let's begin. Air transportation is one of the most capital-intensive industries in the world. Unlike opening a restaurant, a retail store, or even a manufacturing company, an airline cannot begin operations simply by purchasing equipment and hiring employees. Airlines operate in one of the world's most heavily regulated industries because passenger safety is the highest priority. Before a single passenger boards an aircraft, an airline must satisfy government aviation authorities that it has the financial resources, qualified personnel, safety procedures, maintenance systems, and operational capability to fly safely. In the United States, airlines are primarily regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration, commonly known as the FAA, which oversees safety, pilot certification, aircraft maintenance, and operational standards. Airlines that wish to provide scheduled passenger service must also obtain economic authority from the U.S. Department of Transportation, while security requirements are enforced by the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA. Other countries have similar aviation authorities. Canada has Transport Canada. The United Kingdom operates through the Civil Aviation Authority. The European Union works with the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, while many other countries regulate aviation through their own civil aviation authorities. Although regulations differ slightly between countries, one principle remains universal. Airlines must demonstrate that they can operate safely and financially before receiving permission to transport passengers. That brings us to one of the biggest misconceptions people have about the airline business. Many believe that buying an airplane automatically means you can start an airline. In reality, purchasing the aircraft is only one piece of a much larger financial puzzle. The first major economic decision is choosing an airline business model. Generally, airlines operate under three primary models. The first is the full-service carrier. These airlines provide multiple cabin classes, airport lounges, international connections, baggage services, meals, and extensive customer support. Examples include major global airlines operating long-haul international networks. The second model is the low-cost carrier, which focuses on reducing operating costs by simplifying services. These airlines typically operate one aircraft type, maximize aircraft utilization, charge separately for optional services, and aim to transport passengers at the lowest possible cost. This model has proven highly successful in many regions because operational simplicity often leads to lower expenses. The third model is the regional airline. Regional carriers generally operate smaller aircraft, connecting smaller cities with major airport hubs. In many countries, regional airlines either operate independently or under partnerships with larger airlines. Choosing the business model influences nearly every financial decision that follows, from aircraft selection to staffing, maintenance, airport choices, pricing strategies, and profitability. Once the business model is selected, the largest investment begins. Aircraft. Commercial airplanes are among the most expensive business assets in the world. A brand new narrow-body passenger aircraft can cost well over $100 million at its published list price. Although airlines frequently negotiate significant discounts when purchasing multiple aircraft, wide-body aircraft designed for long-haul international routes are even more expensive, with published prices often reaching several $100 million before negotiated discounts. Because of these enormous costs, very few airlines actually pay cash to purchase fleets outright. Instead, many airlines lease aircraft through specialized leasing companies. Operating leases allow airlines to use aircraft while making regular lease payments instead of committing hundreds of millions of dollars upfront. Leasing reduces the amount of initial capital required and provides flexibility as airlines expand or modernize their fleets. Even with leasing, however, airlines must still provide deposits, guarantees, insurance, maintenance reserves, and financing arrangements that require substantial capital. The aircraft itself is only the beginning. Every commercial aircraft must undergo continuous maintenance throughout its operational life. Maintenance is not optional. Aviation authorities require airlines to perform inspections after specified flight hours, flight cycles, or calendar intervals. These inspections range from routine daily checks to extensive maintenance procedures that can keep an aircraft out of service for days or even weeks. During these maintenance periods, airlines continue paying financing costs while temporarily losing revenue from aircraft that cannot operate. This creates another important economic principle in aviation. An aircraft only generates revenue when it is flying. Every hour spent parked on the ground represents potential income that is not being earned. This is why airlines work hard to maximize aircraft utilization by scheduling multiple flights each day while still complying with strict maintenance and safety requirements. Beyond aircraft costs comes another enormous investment: people. An airline cannot operate without highly trained professionals. Pilots require years of training, licensing, medical certification, simulator instruction, and recurrent evaluations throughout their careers. Cabin crew members undergo safety training covering emergency procedures, medical response, firefighting, evacuation techniques, and passenger management. Airlines also employ aircraft maintenance engineers, dispatchers, operations controllers, meteorologists, ground handling staff, customer service agents, finance professionals, cybersecurity specialists, legal teams, network planners, marketing experts, and thousands of additional employees, depending on the size of the company. For major airlines, employee compensation often represents one of the largest operating expenses alongside fuel. As airlines grow, payroll becomes a critical component of financial planning because maintaining experienced personnel is essential for safe and reliable operations. By this point, it's becoming clear that starting an airline is not simply about buying airplanes. It requires regulatory approval, large financial reserves, specialized employees, sophisticated technology, and careful long-term planning before the first commercial flight ever takes off. And surprisingly, despite these enormous investments, selling tickets is only the beginning of how airlines attempt to generate profits. At this point, the airline has been licensed, has secured aircraft, hired employees, and invested enormous amounts of capital. But now comes the most important question. How does an airline actually make money? Most people assume airlines earn profits simply by selling plane tickets. While ticket sales remain the largest source of revenue for most passenger airlines, the economics are far more complicated. Modern airlines operate multiple revenue streams, carefully balancing passenger demand, pricing strategies, operational efficiency, and additional services to remain profitable. The first and most obvious source of income is passenger ticket sales. However, airlines almost never sell every seat on an aircraft at the same price. If you've ever searched for a flight and noticed that the ticket price changes almost every day, you're witnessing one of the most sophisticated pricing systems in modern business. Airlines use what is known as revenue management, sometimes called yield management. This system uses computer algorithms to estimate demand, analyze historical booking patterns, monitor competitor prices, predict future reservations, and determine how many seats should be sold at different price levels. For example, someone who books a flight 6 months before departure may pay a completely different fare from someone booking the same seat 1 day before takeoff. Business travelers often purchase tickets at the last minute because their schedules are less predictable. Since these travelers generally value flexibility more than low prices, airlines frequently charge higher fares for late bookings. Leisure travelers, on the other hand, usually plan vacations several months in advance and are more sensitive to ticket prices. Airlines therefore offer lower fares earlier to encourage advance bookings. This pricing strategy allows airlines to maximize the total revenue earned from each flight instead of charging every passenger the same fare. Another critical financial measurement used throughout the airline industry is the load factor. Load factor measures the percentage of available seats that are occupied by paying passengers. For example, if an aircraft has 200 seats and 180 passengers board the flight, the load factor is 90%. A high load factor generally indicates that an airline is efficiently filling its aircraft. However, high passenger numbers alone do not guarantee profitability. Imagine two airlines operating identical aircraft with the same number of passengers. One airline sells most of its seats at heavily discounted prices. The other successfully attracts higher-paying business travelers and premium cabin passengers. Even with the same load factor, the second airline may generate significantly more revenue from the exact same flight. This is why airlines focus not only on filling seats, but also on maximizing revenue per passenger. Beyond passenger tickets, airlines generate billions of dollars annually through ancillary revenue. Ancillary revenue includes income from checked baggage fees, seat selection charges, onboard food and beverage sales, Wi-Fi services, priority boarding, extra legroom seating, travel insurance, change fees where applicable, and vacation packages. For many low-cost airlines, ancillary revenue has become one of the most important contributors to profitability. In some cases, an airline can advertise an extremely low ticket price while earning substantial additional income from optional services selected by passengers. Cargo transportation provides another important revenue source. Even on passenger flights, the cargo compartment beneath the passenger cabin often carries valuable goods including electronics, pharmaceuticals, mail, fresh flowers, seafood, automotive parts, and e-commerce shipments. Dedicated cargo airlines transport even larger volumes of freight around the world, serving manufacturers, logistics companies, and online retailers. The rapid growth of global e-commerce has increased demand for air cargo, making freight operations an increasingly valuable segment of the aviation industry. Many major airlines also operate loyalty programs, commonly known as frequent flyer programs. Although passengers view these programs as reward systems, they have become major businesses in their own right. Airlines sell billions of dollars worth of loyalty points every year to banks, credit card companies, hotels, rental car companies, and retail businesses. Financial institutions purchase these points so customers can earn airline rewards when using branded credit cards. This business can generate significant cash flow, even when passenger demand temporarily weakens. Now let's examine where most of an airline's money goes. Fuel is consistently one of the largest operating expenses. Jet fuel prices fluctuate depending on global oil markets, geopolitical events, refinery capacity, transportation costs, and currency exchange rates. A sharp increase in fuel prices can rapidly increase operating costs across an airline's entire network. To reduce this risk, some airlines use financial contracts known as fuel hedging. Fuel hedging allows airlines to lock in fuel prices for future purchases, providing greater certainty over future operating expenses. If market fuel prices increase, hedging may reduce costs. However, if fuel prices decline significantly after contracts are signed, hedging can also become expensive. Labor is another major operating expense. Commercial airlines employ thousands of highly trained professionals whose expertise is essential for safe operations. Pilots, aircraft maintenance engineers, dispatchers, cabin crew, operations controllers, customer service staff, baggage handlers, information technology specialists, and corporate management all contribute to daily airline operations. Because aviation requires specialized skills and continuous training, employee compensation represents one of the industry's largest ongoing costs. Maintenance is another unavoidable expense. Unlike many businesses where equipment can operate until problems develop, commercial aviation follows preventive maintenance schedules established by aviation authorities and aircraft manufacturers. Every aircraft undergoes routine inspections, component replacements, engine servicing, software updates, and major structural examinations throughout its operational life. Although maintenance requires significant investment, it is fundamental to passenger safety and long-term operational reliability. Airport costs also consume substantial portions of airline budgets. Airlines pay landing fees, terminal rental charges, passenger service fees, aircraft parking fees, ground handling costs, security charges, air traffic navigation fees, and gate usage charges. Large international airports often charge significantly higher fees than smaller regional airports. This explains why many low-cost carriers choose secondary airports where operating expenses may be lower, allowing them to offer more competitive ticket prices while maintaining profitability. Every successful airline constantly balances these costs against its revenues. The objective is not simply to sell more tickets. The objective is to maximize profit while maintaining safe, reliable, and efficient operations in one of the world's most competitive industries. So, after understanding the startup costs, licensing requirements, revenue streams, and operating expenses, one important question remains. How much money does someone actually need to start an airline? The answer depends entirely on the type of airline being created. A small regional airline operating only a few leased aircraft may require tens of millions of US dollars in startup capital before carrying its first passenger. That capital must cover aircraft leases or purchases, security deposits, licensing, insurance, employee recruitment and training, maintenance programs, office facilities, reservation systems, marketing, airport agreements, and enough working capital to operate for months before the business reaches stable cash flow. A larger airline operating several jet aircraft on domestic or international routes may require hundreds of millions of dollars in initial investment. Expanding into long-haul international operations generally requires even greater financial resources because of larger aircraft, higher fuel consumption, additional crew requirements, maintenance infrastructure, and increased regulatory compliance. For this reason, very few airlines are funded by a single individual. Most successful airlines are financed through combinations of private investors, commercial bank loans, aircraft leasing companies, institutional investors, venture capital, public share offerings, and retained earnings generated as the business grows. Another factor that determines whether an airline succeeds is network planning. An airline cannot simply fly wherever it wants. Every route must be carefully analyzed to determine whether there is sufficient passenger demand throughout the year. Analysts examine population size, tourism, business travel, competition, airport capacity, seasonal demand, local economic activity, and expected ticket prices before launching a new route. A route with too few passengers may lose money regardless of how efficient the airline becomes. Likewise, entering an overcrowded market with many competitors can lead to price wars that reduce profits for everyone involved. Fleet planning is equally important. Many of the world's most efficient airlines operate a limited number of aircraft types. Using fewer aircraft models reduces pilot training costs, simplifies maintenance, decreases spare parts inventory, and improves scheduling flexibility. This is one reason several successful low-cost airlines have built their operations around a single family of aircraft. Technology has also become a major competitive advantage. Modern airlines rely on advanced software to manage reservations, schedule crews, monitor aircraft maintenance, optimize flight routes, forecast demand, process payments, prevent fraud, and communicate with passengers in real time. Artificial intelligence and data analytics are increasingly being used to improve fuel efficiency, forecast maintenance requirements before failures occur, and predict customer demand more accurately. Environmental sustainability is another major economic consideration. Governments, investors, and passengers are placing increasing pressure on airlines to reduce carbon emissions. As a result, airlines are investing in newer, fuel-efficient aircraft, lighter cabin materials, sustainable aviation fuels where available, improved flight planning, and operational procedures that reduce fuel consumption. While these investments often require significant upfront spending, they can lower operating costs over the long term through reduced fuel use and improved efficiency. One lesson history has repeatedly demonstrated is that airlines are highly sensitive to external events. Economic recessions often reduce business and leisure travel. Global health emergencies can dramatically decrease passenger demand. Natural disasters may disrupt airport operations. Geopolitical conflicts can force airlines to reroute flights, increasing fuel consumption and operating costs. Fuel price volatility can rapidly change profitability. Currency exchange fluctuations affect airlines that earn revenue in one currency while paying expenses in another. Because of these risks, successful airlines maintain strong financial planning, adequate cash reserves, diversified route networks, and flexible operational strategies to withstand unexpected challenges. Competition is another defining characteristic of the airline industry. Passengers today can compare ticket prices from dozens of airlines within seconds using online booking platforms. This transparency forces airlines to compete not only on price, but also on reliability, customer service, safety, punctuality, loyalty programs, and overall travel experience. For many airlines, building customer trust is just as valuable as lowering ticket prices. Perhaps the most important financial principle in aviation is cash flow. Even profitable airlines can experience financial difficulties if they do not have enough cash available to meet short-term obligations such as payroll, fuel purchases, aircraft lease payments, airport fees, maintenance expenses, and debt repayments. Maintaining liquidity is therefore just as important as earning accounting profits. This explains why many airlines keep substantial financial reserves or maintain access to credit facilities that can support operations during periods of reduced demand. For entrepreneurs considering this industry, several key lessons stand out. First, aviation is not a business that rewards shortcuts. Safety, regulatory compliance, maintenance, and employee training are non-negotiable investments. Second, profitability depends on operational efficiency. Airlines that effectively control costs while maintaining high service standards generally have a stronger chance of long-term success. Third, patience is essential. Building a profitable airline often takes years of disciplined planning, careful expansion, and continuous investment. Finally, owning an airline is not simply about airplanes. It is about managing one of the world's most complex businesses, a business that combines finance, engineering, logistics, technology, international regulation, marketing, customer service, risk management, and global economics into a single operation that must function safely every single day. When managed effectively, an airline does far more than transport passengers. It connects cities, supports tourism, enables international trade, creates thousands of skilled jobs, strengthens business relationships, and contributes significantly to economic growth. In many countries, aviation has become a strategic industry that supports national development and global connectivity. The economics of owning an airline therefore extend far beyond buying aircraft and selling tickets. Success depends on disciplined financial management, efficient operations, strong leadership, regulatory compliance, customer confidence, and the ability to adapt to changing economic conditions. For those with the necessary capital, expertise, and long-term vision, aviation remains one of the world's most challenging, but also one of its most influential industries. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the economics behind owning an airline and want to learn how other major industries really work, subscribe to Raymap's Profit Lab. Here, we break down the real economics behind businesses, from banks and oil refineries to supermarkets, mining companies, shipping lines, and much more. Using factual, In-depth analysis designed to help you understand how the world's biggest industries operate.